And this is what I hate about the jobs. It's basically the employers thinking that you're dependent on him not to starve to death. That's why they try to exploit your fucking time. They try to think of you as a robot who doesn't have any emotions or things to take care of except work, because they're paying you money. You should be, if you have been watching my videos for some time now, you would know that I had gotten a job 2 months ago. I had gotten a job at a pharmacy, and now 2 months later I gave up on that job. And today's video is about the reasons why I decided to become a Hikikomori again. The reason I decided to leave wage-cucking. So the first thing is time. I worked 50 hours a week with no days off. Like, I worked 7.5 hours a day, and because of that I didn't have many time to spend on things that truly made me happy. Those creative works, making videos, writing stories. And even though I had little time on my hand, I used those times to procrastinate because, well, the job was miserable. I did nothing except sit behind a counter and sell medicine and talk to old people who could barely hear what I was saying. I talked about this in the previous video. I said that if I had to choose between getting a lot of money and having a lot of time on my hand, I would choose the latter. I would choose having a lot of time. And to be honest, I wasn't getting a lot of money from that job. It was so meager, it was so, if you like, paltry, that I decided to give up. And let's talk about the pay. Comparing the time I spent on that work versus the pay, the salary, it wasn't much. I'm even embarrassed to mention how much I earned in that job, because I think I worked for free for 2 months because I wasn't getting much. Not to mention the time I was being rebuked for my coming late to work or for the days I took off, even though we weren't supposed to take days off. And even if you talked about getting a day off, the employer would say, who needs rest from work? Like, he wasn't a workaholic, but he expected his employees, us, to not take a day off, even though he took his days off and, I don't know, chilled with his family or something. But he expected us to work basically for him, and then at the end of the month he would barely even give us money that would make ends meet. And this is what I hate about the jobs. It's basically the employers thinking that you're dependent on him not to starve to death. That's why they try to exploit your fucking time. They try to think of you as a robot who doesn't have any emotions or things to take care of except work, because they're paying you money. You should be getting your ass to work and slaving for him so that he could enjoy and take his days off and chill and fucking buy his cars and whatever. But you're an employee, you don't have any fucking life. You should just keep on working because you owe the employer something. That's why you're working for him. But that's not how it works. But they don't realize that. That's why they try to exploit you. And this is what happened to me. I was working 50 hours a week and getting peanuts for salary. I don't think it could be called a salary. It was like, he was basically saying, you worked for me for 2 months and here is your salary. I hope you don't starve to death, and this will cover your eating expenses for a week. And I don't give a fuck if you find subsistence to live on. So comparing the salary with the time I was spending, it wasn't worth it. The third thing is posterity. I didn't think that if I worked for 10 years I would become a master at this job. A master employee who could work like a machine and earn a lot of money. I didn't think that. It wasn't like I was being an apprentice for a carpentry or some other trade that I could become my own master one day. I was basically an employee in a pharmacy, and I could be replaced. Even if I had worked for 5 years, I could be replaced in 2 days, because it's easy. Anyone who could read or talk could work in a pharmacy. It wasn't a big deal. So comparing the salary, the time I was spending, and the potential of me earning a lot of money in the future wasn't as good in my opinion. That's why I decided to give up on the job. Even though I'm not really as successful on YouTube or in my writing career, I'm basically a beginner there and also here. But it's like, at least I have some hope that one day I will be a good content creator. I could make a career out of this. But a traditional job, a 9-to-5 job, that's no place to have hopes like that. A 9-to-5 job, in my opinion, is something that you are forced to do, as I said, when you are trying not to starve to death. Or you have no choice, you don't have any other career paths. or potential career paths. You don't have those side projects or passion projects, as the cliche saying goes. But that doesn't mean that I didn't learn a lot of valuable things in this job. I learned to communicate to people. I learned to smile when the customer was talking shit to me. So that was a really good test for patience. I learned the value of time because every second that I spent on that job, I kept thinking about ways to get out of that job by potentially becoming successful at other things, becoming successful at something which would allow me to work for myself. But considering that, I thought that there was nothing for me in this job, there was nothing for me to learn, and as I said, no money. People work for money, you give services for money. The employer can make excuses that he's teaching you something valuable, that's why he will try to cut down the salary because he is, as I said, giving you something for free. Because in every job, you trade your hours, your sweet fucking hours, for money, for coin, for bread. And if you're not getting that bread, then even the most valuable job in the world is useless. Even if it has a high potential for earning in the future, if that job is not going to make you a master of yourself one day, because you will always be dependent on others to give you money.